Hey guys, what's going on? It's Don here from Novaspirit Tech and welcome back to the channel. And today we're going to be checking out Linux Mint. So let's get started. Now I have not played around with Linux Mint for a while now, actually 6 or 7 years. I think the last time I played with Linux Mint was when Ubuntu was just switching over to Unity and we have the GNOME Classic, and I was looking for a similar desktop to what that was. I think that was the last time I ever played with Mint, but I finally decided to sit down and try it again, especially with the new updates that they put in and the way they redesigned the desktop in a sense to make it more Windows 10, Windows 11 style, which is something very useful if you're trying to introduce somebody or trying to get into Linux and you're familiar with Windows. So let's begin. Now, the first time you install this software, you get presented with this welcome screen. Now, I've installed this software. I've used it actually for quite some time now. I think this is about 10 days since I've been using Linux Mint. So I actually have a lot of programs installed in here that are not standard to Linux Mint, but this is the main screen that you get started with. And you go through all the steps. You can change the different color styles or the theme to what you like. The standard is green, Linux Mint. Mint is green, so they do have that. And there is different panel layouts. Now, this is more of the 11 style or the more modern style, you could say, where everything groups up. I personally like the traditional style where you could actually see the title of the program on the bottom, but it's really up to user preference at this point. You can also do snapshots of the system just in case if you want to revert back to a state. Just like Windows have system restore, this is the system snapshot is basically that. I do like the new driver manager where you could launch it and not have to type in the password to look for drivers. Back in Ubuntu, well, still in Ubuntu, you have to type in your password just before you can even look up drivers or anything. So I do like that this is new to that style. They have their own update manager and then system settings and their own software manager. Their update manager and the software manager are two different things. Unlike Ubuntu where the software manager and the update is in the top title bar, you have two separate programs for this, which I do like. It makes it a little bit more user-friendly, so you're not looking at a software center just for updates. But there are some issues with the software manager. Example, if I was to type Steam, you could see it actually pulls up 2 or 3 different types of installers, one from FlatHub, one from this package manager, and this is a Steam installer. And for a lot of new users, that would be quite confusing. But if you know what you're looking for, like FlatHub or package manager, you'll know which one to install. Now, I have the regular Ubuntu package installed. I'm not using the FlatHub version, but if you do go into the version itself, you can actually select. Actually, it's not doing it now because this is the one that I installed. So let me see if I can find another software like GIMP. I'm pretty sure it's going to do the same thing. You see how it shows up too? And then if I choose this, there you go. You get the drop down. It's probably because I already installed Steam. It doesn't let me, but you can choose in the individual applications, even though it's showing 2. So it's a little confusing in the software manager, and I hope they fix that in the future. But otherwise, it works great. It's very fast, you could see. Now, the update manager itself is just a program that allows you to, it'll look for kernel updates or software updates. Like right now, I have a bunch of updates. And it'll actually give me a notification on the bottom that I have like 15 updates available on the bottom right. That's what it does for me. I could actually use a complete separate update manager, which I do like. Now, jumping into system settings, you can go in here and modify the same things that you were able to modify in the first steps, changing backgrounds, selecting themes, but this one gives you more of a visual appeal. So in here, you could actually choose the different window wallpaper for different versions of Linux Mint, or you could actually go into system setting, which I personally like is just a solid color if I'm going to use this remotely, which I actually have one set up just for remote purposes. You can actually choose no picture and then select the background color. This is really up to you, but you can choose the green classic mint wallpaper. This one looks pretty good as well, or the gray one. It really depends up to you on what style you like, or you can change it completely. I am actually gonna go back out of this, and you can actually go into themes. In here, you could choose the different types of themes for the mouse pointer, application, icons. This is the standard one, or the desktop itself. If you don't like it this way, you could actually click and choose like a light color. Again, up to your preference if you like different styles. This is more like a Windows style. Back then it used to be like a dark like this one. I think this one is it, the Mint X color. But now they change it over to like more of a Windows style, which I like. I'm not a huge fan of the mouse itself. I would actually stay with the Breeze cursor, but I'm just showing what you get when you first install. If you want to add custom themes, you could just go in here, search for the theme that you want, and then you could basically download it, install it, and run it. So I do like that feature as well. Going down the list, you have applets. There's a bunch of applets. Like if you wanted WireGuard, this is installed by go into downloads, and then you can search for WireGuard, and then it'll be in this list. And then I could hit the add button to add it in. I don't have anything installed for WireGuard, that's why that pop-up came up. But yeah, you can now have a WireGuard icon on the bottom. So if you want to add particular applications to the task manager on the bottom right, you can do that. Other than that, a lot of the other stuff stayed pretty standard. They do have the show desktop icon on the bottom right, just like Windows 11 or Windows 10. So again, this is very similar to what you would get in a Windows machine. So if you're floating from Windows and deciding if you want to move over to Linux, but you're afraid to learn a completely different interface, Linux Mint is something to take a look at. Now, going into the start menu itself, you can see that you can do a search for whatever application you have. You have your quick settings over here, like your settings or shutdown, restart, log off. In particular, there's not much anything interesting that I would show. In a most standard installation, you would get everything you would normally get here. In the accessories, it's just standard calculator. I did install Flat Seal because anytime you use anything with Flatpak, you want Flat Seal so you can modify the permissions. You have the games. There's also Lutris that I installed as well, and games work right off the bat. I do not have to install anything different just to get it going. Like Lutris, I didn't install any games, but I did install Epic Game Launcher, and it just works right away. So in here, Epic Game Launcher, hit play, and it's gonna run my Epic Game Launcher. I'm gonna let that run in the background because it takes a few seconds, but otherwise, yeah, it works. Then I have graphics, drawing, pics. Internet is my standard stuff. Nothing different here. They do have web apps, which I do like. All right, I'm gonna close this out because we don't need that, but I was just showing you guys. Then you have Office, which is LibreOffice. And then sound and video, I installed DaVinci Resolve Studio, which works perfectly fine. I'm not going to show it because it takes a few seconds to start up, but it does work. Their video player is Celluloid. I've never really used that, but yeah, it's pretty interesting. It's just their version of video player that you would use. On first boot, it's about like 1.2 or 1.4 on first boot. File system, it's hard to say because I use 90 gigs. That's because I installed some games. DaVinci Resolved, I edited a video, I installed Space Engineers. Like I've done stuff to this, but on a fresh install, it's about 10 gigs or 10.1 or something like that. And that's about it as far as the things I would touch on, which is the software manager, upgrade, installing different themes. It's really very user-friendly if you are switching over. It's very basic. I actually did not have to use the terminal at all to install most of my applications other than DaVinci Resolve because it requires a special script. Otherwise, it's a very user-friendly operating system and I kind of enjoyed using it. Now, what's cool is I've been searching for a Linux desktop made solely for remote sessions like RDP. And if you install the XRDP script, which I have a video over here, that converts this Linux desktop into XRDP session, or RDP session, it works really, really, really well as far as a remote computer. So I might be able to stop using my Windows machine as an RDP session when I remote into my house and use this instead, which is something I'm currently working on, which is transferring all my data over. But so far, I really enjoyed using it, especially when you are able to easily install XRDP using that script. Anyway, that is it for me. If you guys have any questions about this, let me know down in the desktop below. If you guys are new to this channel, consider subscribing and also hitting that bell notification icon so you know when the next video is going to be out. And as say my nerd cave, hack till it hurts.